everybody. So today I want to film the first in a series of videos that kind of take you through my background, my story, why I started the channel, and what you can expect from Screaming Pennies. So my background is that I have made my entire career in brick and mortar retail, and I think that is thousands and thousands of us, right? So you're in high school, you get your first job. More likely than not, it's either in a fast food restaurant or it's in a grocery store, or maybe if you live near a mall or a strip mall, you start right out in some type of either apparel or hard goods retail, either stocking, probably being a cashier. And my story is very similar to that. I started putting myself through college. I was very fortunate that through grants due to my grades, I was able to have the vast majority of my education paid for. And then I worked full time in college to be able to afford, living and books and that sort of thing. So I started in brick and mortar retail because of the flexibility, and quickly realized, because I was an education major, that I was being used in a lot of training capacities. So I was doing onboardings and, mentoring new hires or mentoring people who, for whatever reason, weren't performing at the standard that they were expected to perform. And so I was in a teaching capacity all the time. And I began to find that I really enjoyed that. And my degree being in education, I did some research and found that I would have a very good career trajectory in retail because of my ability to connect and teach. So upon graduating from college, I accepted a full-time introductory, entry-level management position, and then worked my way up through the ranks over the course of just over 20 years. I was successful. I really enjoyed what I did. I really enjoyed impacting the people that I got to impact. And so this channel is never going to be about sour grapes over retail or how bad retail is or how hard retail is. And it will never be about the bad break that I had in that my job ultimately last spring was eliminated. I don't look at it as a bad break. I look at it as part of my career path. And I am not alone. And if you're watching this, you're probably saying, I'm not alone. It's happening all over the place in brick and mortar for a host of reasons. The convenient short answer is that Amazon has changed the marketplace. But the bigger truth is that the internet as a whole has changed the marketplace. So over time, companies are figuring out that they are able to run stores with less people, and in part that's because of the challenge of filling some of these retail positions, because you can't support a family of 4 on these entry-level roles. So it's part of a much broader conversation that I'm not here today to have, obviously, but in May of 2018, my position was eliminated. I do not have any ill will towards my company. I still have very close friends. I still maintain great relationships, great mentoring relationships with people from that company. My effort in beginning this channel and sharing what I'm going through is to basically share my story and hope that it hits a familiar chord with those of you who are maybe even currently still in a traditional retail position, who are thinking, things are changing at a rapid rate. And I called it packing my parachute. I knew about a year out, I just began to have ill at ease feelings that I really needed to be thinking about my skill set and packing my parachute. And so that's what this channel is about. I'm just going to take you through the things that I'm doing in my journey out of traditional retail, but not out of retail as a whole, just how it's changing, and how my relationship with it is changing. So a question that I'm asked a lot in my life is, how do you get out of retail? Many of us have been in this for several decades and never really gave, I think, enough credence to how rapidly things are changing. And what that change has caused is that there are fewer upper level roles because they're just not as necessary. You see fewer and fewer regional positions, fewer and fewer district positions, which is the level that I was working at. And then, it hasn't so much hit the store level in terms of store managers, but you're seeing companies thinning out full-time assistant managers and relying on part-time key holders and that sort of thing. So a lot of us have feelings of, will my job exist in 5 years in the way that it exists today? And the simple answer is probably not. But that's the answer across many career paths. So don't let that paralyze you with fear. Let that cause you to be introspective and think about the parts of your current role that you love and the skill sets that you have acquired in that current role, and how you are going to pack your parachute with those skills and transition them somewhere else potentially. When my position ended, I took a lot of time. And, at the time I thought, I would likely go into a very similar role to the one that I had just left. And I did a series of interviews, and I just did not feel that excitement in my spirit that I was returning to something that I potentially wouldn't be exactly in the same position that I was in down the road. And I did not wish to be in this position again down the road. So I really began to think very, very carefully about what the parts of that job and that life were that I loved so much, and what skill sets those gave me. So this is true of any career change, but let me get really, really specific to my retail friends out there. You guys know the things that you have learned in your, I call it, free business degree that you have gained in working in retail. If you're a store manager, you know how to run a small business in the sense of managing inventory, interviewing, hiring, planning your personnel needs, managing your payroll. Depending on your responsibilities, you may have even had to place orders and kind of perform in somewhat of a buyer capacity. So you may have skill sets that would actually translate in a corporate office environment for a retail company if you have a headquarters in your city. So you may want to pursue, how do I take the skill sets I learned inside four walls of a store and scale those into a maybe corporate buyer position? Some of you may really want to investigate going into HR and seeking a license in human resources and researching that. There's a ton of information on courses around that and things that you can do to begin becoming licensed in the areas that you would need to be. And I would recommend looking at job postings for the licenses that they require, quite simply, and reverse engineer that into what you need to pursue, and then ultimately, obviously, where you can pursue that. But the other big things that you absolutely learn in brick and mortar is operations. You know how to manage inventory, you know how to manage workflow, how to delegate workflow, and you understand how to organize systems in a way that they can run smoothly and efficiently. And that translates into a lot of small business ideas. One that immediately came to my mind was home organizing and just helping people with small projects that they have that are just nagging them, that they can't get to, that they really dread. And I could walk in to my friends' homes and really help them simplify some things and help them through the process of weeding things out. And it just so happened that this was the summer and fall of home organizing. So it was really timely, and I was able to essentially take on side work, helping my friends essentially do a store set in their house. And that has given me the seed money that I needed to then go into my next adventure. The other thing that you can think about is the world of Etsy, which is something that is really, really close to my heart and is actually the avenue that I'm going to also be pursuing, in that, I have always been a crafter. I have always loved handmade goods. And it was in my outlet. It was my stress relief through 20 years of retail. And I'm now in the process of monetizing that. And so, and I'll be sharing more of that process along the way. So it may be that you have a hobby that you can monetize either with, an actual craft or an activity, such as helping people with organizing, and before you know it, you have a respectable small side income, a side hustle of doing those things. Um, so thinking in those terms, what skill did your position or your current position give you that you can apply in some non-traditional ways that you can begin to monetize? So I get that it is an intimidating idea, but it is a possible idea. Um, you may need to do two things at once. You may need to be the master of the side hustle, and the thought of that may be exhausting at this point, but you need to begin looking outside of where you are and what you're currently doing, because I will tell you the other thing that I have learned along the way is that there probably is not one silver bullet. There probably is going to be the need for you to create multiple income streams. That's been the case for me. I can definitely see that Etsy is going to only be one facet of what I ultimately do. I obviously am also doing this YouTube channel, which is also teaching me how to do a YouTube channel. With Etsy, that's going to be putting my toe in the water of e-commerce. You could also explore the world of drop shipping. Here's the thing. We are so blessed that we are facing these challenges at a time in history where we have the world in our smartphones. If there is any question that you have, if there is any area that you want to explore, you don't have to invest a single dime to do that. You just have to ask the right questions on YouTube. And so that's my other goal with this channel as I share the process that I'm going through in beginning my business, is that I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney. So, my advice is what you paid for it. It's worth what you paid for, right? But I hope to do what others did for me as I began to get what I now call my bachelor's degree in YouTube, or on YouTube. And that is, I learned terminology. I learned of things that I needed to explore, thinking I knew what I needed to know to start my Etsy shop. And then as I would watch other Etsy shop owners' channels, I would learn, oh my gosh, I don't know if I need to inform my county that I'm doing that. I don't know if it's legal for me to operate a small business out of my home. I don't know if I want to do a sole proprietor or an LLC or an S corp. All of those things I came to discover and answer for myself simply by watching an infinity of YouTube. So take heart. We have resources and we can do a lot of exploration, and that only makes you a better question asker, which is really the part of your journey that you're in right now, is asking a ton of questions. And then those answers are probably going to give you more questions. But you can do this. And our skill sets are incredibly broad. And there is absolutely every reason to be excited and hopeful that you can build something on the side and eventually grow it so that it becomes your full-time income. And you are absolutely just going to need to put in the elbow grease and the time to do that. So I hope you make Screaming Printies part of that, and I'll talk to you guys soon.